What's good, A Show listeners? It is Justin here with an esteemed group of wrestling minds that have come together to wrap up 2023. We're starting off here, so we gotta set the tone. You know what I'm saying? We're doing numbers 20 through 16. Of course, you got me, Justin from the A Show, Cyrus from the War Report, and Channing and CC from the Rewriters Room. I can't play any drops or anything. I was gonna play a Funk Flex bomb because I feel like that's like a big thing. But what's going on, y'all? How y'all doing?
I'm winning. Like I was saying earlier, man, my teams are winning, and I feel like as it gets to fall time, that really make or break your weekend, man. Coming off a loss, it's a tough Monday, man. Especially in my office, I work with a bunch of dads. I work basically in like state construction, so it's very like home improvement vibe. So all they want to talk about is the game. So being able to talk about a win, it just makes for a much better week. So I'm doing good.
Yeah, of course. We got a bunch of winners in this list. I want to get right to it because I know there's a lot of videos coming out. But in the 20th spot on this list, Becky Lynch wins the NXT Women's Championship. A crazy moment to be exact, because as this built up throughout the months leading up or the weeks leading up to it, Tiffany Stratton accidentally something in a promo, which we still not we haven't confirmed if that was like intentional or not. If
the seeds are always planted, bro. Don't worry about that.
We don't know if it was intentional or not, but that's how the whole feud starts. And then Becky shows up to NXT. They have a match, which is really good. I mean, Tiffany Stratton's really good. Becky Lynch really good, and she wins the title. And I know you guys are in the Discord. I don't know if how many. I don't. I'm not in there when the show's airing, but how many of y'all were in the Discord when this happened? And like the reaction to this was like, what was it like?
From my point of view, at least, I thought it was an amazing moment. I thought they might go with a little crazy finish or whatever, but I think Becky Lynch winning the NXT championship is an amazing story. I've always been a fan of like the improvement of all the superstars. That's why I review NXT, and then you never stop growing. So for Becky Lynch to, go to WrestleMania, do all this jazz, and still, circle back to win that championship, it just makes everything perfect. Wraps everything up with a bow.
Yeah, I mean, she wins the title, then you get the reaction from the internet. It's like Becky's holding the women down. And then it's like she's doing what she did in the main roster and all of that stuff.
And then the first thing she does is give motherfuckers like Xia Li, what is it?
Bro, Indy Hartwell, bro.
Indy Hartwell time on Raw.
Yeah, listen,
bro. But we didn't need none of that. If that was the case, she could have stayed doing what she was doing in the main roster. But that's neither here nor there. But we got to get into like really like the reign and the people that she put over, the people she had matches with. She headlined a NXT pay-per-view, which is something that was unheard of, earlier in the year. I mean, Becky's year has been, I would say, for someone of her caliber, not the most orthodox, if you will. Like that would be like if Stone Cold went down to OVW, at his kind of peak and did some stuff there. What have you guys thought about Becky kind of giving back to the women's wrestling world, but also working with legends earlier in the year?
That is really funny to like think about a NXT like Attitude Era, just like what that would look like. It's very silly. But I was thinking about that, and I think it's honestly partially a testament to like the depth of the roster that like a female superstar can have that type of unorthodox run and like be in title pictures, tag title pictures. But part of it was just not, and just like that's really a thing we weren't seeing. Like if it was a big women's feud, it was probably around a belt or like something authority adjacent. But like this would just be like, no, Becky Lynch is a big deal. So who she wrestles is a big deal. I think just having that as its own storyline is really like one of the coolest things. And getting to see legends, like getting to see like Trish Stratus and Lita, like who's complaining? Like who's here at home like, what, I really wish we had one less Trish Stratus match. Like that's a crazy idea. So
yeah, I mean, she has the matches with Trish. She has the she was teaming with Trish and Lita. Then she faced off against Trish Stratus, has a crazy cage match. She has a couple she has like 2 cage matches this year? Yeah. One against Trish. And then
3 if you count War Games.
Oh, and then 3 if you count War Games. I don't think, and I know this might sound crazy because, and I don't watch, I'm not a Stardom guy. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I don't watch all that, you know, a lot of those things, but not that I don't watch them. I don't watch them often, but there's no world to me where Becky Lynch isn't number one this year. I just think it's and here's my thing. She might not have had the best women's match, and that's arguable as well, because that Extreme Rules match with Tiffany was kind of crazy. I don't know, like that might be up there with best women's match of the year, but she might not have like the undisputed, you know, unarguable best match of the year, but she definitely worked the most out of a lot of the women that we've seen this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, Becky Lynch, she did a lot that the internet wishes that a lot of other people do. And she's just not going to get her flowers for it. I don't really know why, but I think she had an amazing year going down to NXT, giving people opportunities, taking the NXT Women's Championship to Raw, making that damn near the singles, you know, mid-card title, giving people like Tegan Knox, Indy Hartwell, Xia Li, like, even though they might have not been like the best times, but like she gave people opportunities, and you know, we love to see that. And Tegan Knox is still getting used today.
Yeah, I mean,
fell off.
I think the only bad overrun or runoff from the Becky reign is Xia Li being on my television screen 2 nights in a row. I think that's the worst part about it. But Becky Lynch then loses the title. I don't think people have grasped how crazy it is that Lia Valkyria beat Becky Lynch on TV in front of millions of people. Like how much that catapulted her. You know what I mean? Like she's immediately in that upper class. Becky don't lose often. Let's just be clear. Like you could count on your hand how many times she's lost this year alone. So for that to be like the you know, that be her one loss to a developmental talent, I think is a really big feather in her cap, and really went a long way to putting over Lyra.
I see what you did there, feather in the cap. I see what you did there.
Come on, Big Bird. We fine with it. Big Bird, Big Bird.
I think
it's easy.
I mean, so I think to build on your point, Becky's run right now to me draws a lot of parallels to Seth when he had that IC title run, and also other eras that he was in, but particularly now. To me, it feels like she's doing a better version of what he's trying to do, which is be all over the place, showcasing that you can basically do anything with anyone. But I think she's doing it in a better way than he is, because to me, the way that he's doing it is much more of a, oh, I can beat anybody kind of thing. I'm Seth freaking Rollins. And in hers, it's more of a, hey, I could have a story with anyone kind of thing. She built Lyra up by losing to her. And then the next thing that she did was manhandle slam Bailey through a table to win the War Games match amongst future Hall of Famers. Yeah. She was the one who pinned her. So like you went from, it's like, oh, like think about like what discourse might have been like on that night when she lost or whatever, like what people might have thought like the stock might have been. The next thing that happened was like, out of everyone, Bianca and Charlotte are right there. She pins. Like, this is amazing. What are you talking about? This is a roller coaster. This is what wrestling is supposed to be. Like, you gotta look at this and realize, like, this is why they call her the man. It really is outside of all that gender. Like, this is not women's. Like, honestly, to me, this is not like the best. It's not best women's wrestling. It's like best wrestling shit. Sometimes there's certain people that come on and they might be big stars and they come on and I'm just like, all right, get through your entrance or whatever. I'm always here for Becky shit. It don't matter when she on the mic. Even when I think she drop a corny bar here or there, I still want to listen to the rest of the promo. Like, I fuck with her.
She's known to drop a couple. She's known to drop a couple. Real shit. Becky Lynch, I mean, you get no arguments from us as to who's the top female wrestler of the year so far. But let's go back down through the list. Number 19 on the list. We're going into spot callers territory here. MJF defeats Bryan Danielson in a 60-minute Iron Man match. A lot of people call this match an instant classic, but you know, a lot of people say this was the match that kind of cemented MJF's reign as champion. A lot of people say it's the best AEW match of all time, and that also got they have, every pay-per-view they have a best match of all time.
Which match is it? Which one ain't?
Every hyperbole you could think of. That's what
exactly. But we all have to remember the time when MJF and Bryan Danielson had some not so stellar TV that led to a stellar match at a pay-per-view. And yeah, what were you guys' thoughts about it? I know, Cyrus, you said your thoughts about it on the War Report. Have you guys checked that out or checked out highlights of it? I know when I saw it, I think that it was definitely strong. I think that what it did for me was show me that more than like the Four Pillars match, the MJF can really go. I thought the Four Pillars match was great, but I was like, he's working with 3 other guys that are like good to great. You know what I mean? So he looked good regardless next to those guys. With Bryan Danielson, it's him hanging around. But then there was like some silly shit in the match as well, where it's like the drink thing happens during this match. The finish happens during this match.
Drink course was crazy. I felt like that really overshadowed most of the match, especially with our demographic. I think that yes, it shows that MJF has stamina. And to me, that's not a real accolade. I hope you have stamina when you do this. When you want to do a hour-long match, I hope you can do it. Like, I hope you can survive. I thought the match was great going into like the finish. I thought like the finishing sequences is like really nice. But personally, in my heart, if a match is an hour long and I only like the last 15 of it, it ain't. But I understand why it's on the list. It's definitely a moment that like it's an accolade that MJF could definitely put to the stats.
Yeah, and I will say as a like I try to tap into AEW a little bit. It's nothing consistent, but I watch a little bit. To me, it was definitely the match where I was like, okay, MJF is a thing. Like this is a thing, and I think that even just saying that, not to say the match was great, not to say his title reign has been great, but just to say that like there's a lot of stuff that AEW does where it's very fleeting, very just like here today, gone tomorrow, and it's like I'm not saying MJF is gonna be some Hall of Famer guy, but I'm like he is someone who I now know in my brain who I won't forget about. Where there's a lot of AEW guys who I like, they get popping. And I have forgotten about him. Like I almost forgot about Wardlow until I saw him powerbomb somebody recently. Like completely, like just Men in Blacked it.
They forgot about Wardlow too. So it's not just you.
It's crazy, yeah. And so, but MJF, I'm like, okay, this is a thing. Like this will be a thing. And I say to his credit, I have to give him his flowers for that. Like you proved that like you're a thing, and like a lot of guys don't do that.
I think the big question, not even a question, the big narrative comes out of this is that Bryan bleeds in this match, a bucket. Bryan bleeds in another match. He's hitting his head on things. He's taking all types of unprotected bumps. He has the Okada match months after this where he gets legitimately injured and they don't stop the match. And now he has a broken orbital bone. Could you guys say that this is the year where we kind of saw Bryan become mortal in more ways than one? I think that we forget, we rather forgot that like he was always prone to these things, right? Because he hadn't gotten really hurt badly in a long time, and he was actually working relatively safely in WWE. But this was the year where it really kind of caught up to him.
Yeah, definitely. This is he could bleed. This is definitely it. And I think like that match could have been like the catalyst for. Well, actually, I would even like go further back. What is it? I think it's like Anarchy in the Arena, with the Inner Circle, Blackpool Combat Club, and stuff like that, where Bryan Danielson takes that nasty like shot with the turnbuckle hook, I think it was, to the head. Like I feel like that, and then just the rest of the year, kind of like, his body is like taking a lot.
Next up on this list, we're gonna keep it all AEW here. Adam Copeland, the former Edge, debuts at AEW's Wrestle Dream. I felt really bad pawning off Edge to Cyrus and Quan this year. I felt very bad about it. Because
the content hasn't been great.
It's not giving.
Terrible stuff. Not at all.
Here's the idea. Here's the story here. Edge goes, he comes out late July in WWE programming, says he doesn't have much time left. He says he wants to end his career in his hometown. They have a big SmackDown, Edge 25. rafters, lights, bad hockey jerseys, bad belts, selling it. They sold out of all of it. T-shirts, everything. Has a match against Sheamus. We're pretty sure at that point, I think everyone in our chat and then all over the world said this is probably not what he had in mind for his last match, but there's no one left. You know, there's no one left you to face. And at this point, Cena was, I mean, I'm pretty sure that Cena was coming back, but he was like, I'm not about to work Edge right now. This is what I'm about to do. He has a match with Sheamus. People are saying on the internet, he is going to AEW. They have already fucking signed it. It's done. He gets on the internet and says, I haven't signed any contract. They got a contract at the mail and I'm just staring at it. And I've just been staring at this contract for days. He's on his front porch in the grandpa chair, rocking back and forth in that bitch. And then they say that what did Tony say? The AEW is about to change. It's about to be a revolution in AEW.
After Wrestle Dream is going to be a new era.
A new era.
That's what it was. New era.
New era AEW. All right. What y'all think about the new era of AEW? So Edge comes
look exactly the same.
Edge comes out, Metalingus and all. Or I'm sorry, whoops. Adam Copeland.
Beth Phoenix, bro.
Metalingus and all. Spear some folks. And now he's on AEW television. I gotta be real here. This is the strangest. And the thing is that like I don't even think Edge Adam is still okay with how this stuff went down because he was defending it for weeks on Twitter, blocking people who didn't like it. He made a long Twitter post about stopping tribalism, et cetera, even though he went to the company that started the tribalism in the first place. All types of things he's been doing to protect this whole thing. But the debut, in my opinion, looking back, I don't think it was a big like I don't think it was one of their biggest debuts ever. I don't think it was one of the biggest surprises ever either. I think it was just like, oh, he's here.
This is not a top 20 moment. Sorry.
That's Cyrus. This isn't a top 20 moment.
It wasn't Canada.
Not a top 20 moment.
You're not thinking of their international listeners. In Canada, it did numbers, so it's a big deal to them. I just never realized how much work Edge did for him as a wrestler. Like just the name, because Adam Copeland is just such a tough name, and I think that's like part of the reason why it's not hitting. Just say even it also, especially the company already has Adam Cole, which is like a cooler version of that name. So just saying Adam Copeland is such a mouthful. I'll say the stuff with Christian was cool because I support the Mid-Card Mafia. Christian's a dues fully financial member, so I gotta support Christian. So him being like, get out of my face, love that. The interest was Sting and Darby with the mask. I'm a sucker for mask and matching, so I give him that too. But yeah, the rest of it has just kind of been very underwhelming. But I feel like at this point, it's also like, are there any AEW debuts that are overwhelming? Like they're all kind of just becoming this at this point. So it's almost like I don't even know if it's a him thing or this is just what it's like when people debut now. Because it's just really, like you said, how many major announcements has it been?
Yeah.
How many new eras are we in? What era is this now?
You'll have Mariah May come out in a backstage segment. You'll have Keith Lee appear. You'll have, the biggest debuts that they've ever had. The biggest debuts that they've ever had, or the biggest debut they've ever had was Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson, right?
Back to back. And those were the right after one another.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So that was so crazy. Like from just a purely like anyone who's been in high school theater could have been like, don't do that. Like that's ridiculous. Like
compare that to that entrance, and it's not really that big of a deal. Ed is almost 50. I think he's 50 or almost 50. I mean, that was looked at as kind of to me like a get the bag move. It's like, okay, I know, like I said it at the time. He was get the bag. I completely understand. However, creatively, how is this going to fulfill you? Has it fulfilled? Do you feel as though this creatively has fulfilled Adam Copeland yet, Cyrus?
I'll say that I'm cool with anybody going over there if it's a get the bag move, right? But with the blocking on Twitter, defending it, now this is like, oh, you think this is really fire? Because if I'm just trying to get a bag, I'm gonna let y'all talk. I'm gonna let y'all broke ass niggas talk to the ether. You feel me? But he thought like he really did some shit, and that's very much not the case.
Yeah,
they probably let him shoot around his Percy Jackson schedule, so that's probably a big part of it because he getting that Disney bag now. So
I mean,
I'm sure
I feel
WWE
like
wouldn't give him shit.
WWE was he, but I mean WWE. He comes back, he's off for 4 months. He gets injured, he's off for 2 months.
you're right.
You know what I mean? Like he said it himself in an interview. He was like, "This is getting harder and harder for me to continue to do."
Yeah.
But so that's the part that to me this seems like it was just a complete lie. It was just like, so you're gonna go back and have way more intense matches because even though he's like working a live schedule now, it's gonna pick up after the Christian thing happens. Like he's gonna be doing these strong style matches. And I'm like, is AEW where niggas go just so they can prove that they have like some like wrestling clout? Because let's just talk about the elephant in the room here. Indie wrestling or AEW wrestling fans don't give a fuck about Edge.
Nope.
He's always been WWE guy.
Always has been.
Yeah. Okay. So to build, sorry, Shannon, to cut you off. To build on that point, and something you said earlier too, with the fact that he's so old, and that he came over here to like get that bag, but he's like fumbled it at the same time. The thing is Edge, like, and the one key thing that you said about him being, it kind of feels like Diet Edge. He didn't realize what was selling Edge. Go back and look at all of his like classic moments that people who are fans of him, who are not AEW fans, as you pointed out, consider classic moments. He was facing guys who were his size and bigger, except for like Rey Mysterio when it came to like that kind of stuff. Like everyone he was involved with was like his size and bigger. He goes over to AEW, he looks like the big old guy around these guys or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's weird like for him to be across from Ricky Starks and me to see like, I'm like, what? He does look like a mini version of The Rock because you actually faced like you were against The Rock. Like, so that's why he fumbled it, because he went over there to get the bag, not understanding that, yeah, you got it up front, but nigga, you don't know how to sell this. So
and then he had to the next point or the next moment on our list. We got to get a little bit somber here because we're going number 17 on our list is the passing of Jay Briscoe. Is one of the big moments of the year. Jay Briscoe passed away earlier this year, and his impact to the indie scene was felt. I mean, there were so many people that are on both companies, all three companies that have worked with Jay all their lives. Kevin Owens being one of them, Seth Rollins being another one of them. A lot of people within Ring of Honor, a lot of people within AEW have also worked with Jay or been taught by Jay or mentored by Jay, and it was something that was, I think, to me, as shocking as any wrestling death that we've had. And this has been a really particularly sad year for those. And I'm we'll be talking about more later on in the list. But Jay Briscoe was someone that I watched when he was like 16 years old in ROH, and this is somebody that stayed with that company from a kid all the way to an adult, won the championship. And I think that the main conversation to have here with Jay Briscoe's passing is, how big do you guys think they would have been had they gotten the spotlight on an AEW or on a WWE TV screen?
I'll just make mine quick. So I missed like their whole big run, so I had to go and catch up after this happened. And when I looked at them, and I even saw this in the match that was on Dynamite. I think it was the first match of the night with his brother. I saw this and I was like, the style, like the way that they wrestled, bro, like it was so energetic. Like, yeah, it was just like you, like when you watch wrestling, you're supposed to believe it. And when I'm looking at like these guys, I'm like, I don't know if this is so much wrestling as these niggas just fight. Like they want to just come out here and do this. So like that ability to sell that, I think had they had a bigger stage, had they had that production value behind it, I think you would have seen them being able to draw a bigger crowd than they already had and make a bigger impact than they already had, just from the clips that I saw when I caught up.
I think another thing that plays into that, which unfortunately you hear about, like you said, on the back end, is that as you get older, especially, you really see how much wrestling is about just relationships. And like, if people don't like you and don't want to work with you and don't want to wrestle with you, you not going nowhere. And so like to see how many people respected them and appreciated them and were inspired by them and are like you could tell like if they got put on, like people would be there to support them. People would be out there trying to work with them, trying to get them over, trying to sell for them. Like there'd be no issue of like, well, I'm just not gonna work with the Briscoes. So I think 100% they would have definitely like got as over as they wanted to be. But they also seem like people kind of like you said, like their main goal wasn't to be as the big as possible. It seemed like they really were about like loyalty and like authenticity or whatever they believed that to be. So like they might have just been cool, just be like, no, we just want to work. Like we don't need to be, FTR or the Young Bucks and dropping sales every month. We want to hear more work. I think that would have been cool for them too.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cyrus.
Oh, sorry. I view these guys like they're family men. Like they are them. And then I feel like if they would have been, got put on in WWE or AEW, they could have went to the top just based off the relationships alone, as you mentioned. WWE has so many ROH alumni. Like even if they, NXT, if they wanted to do that, they could have did that. If they just if they would have went straight to the main roster, they would have been people just like, I got you. What you did for me in ROH, I'm gonna do for you here. We could have got amazing stuff. Dream match of mine was always Briscoes and the Usos. Like just the brotherly fight. That was always something that I really wanted to see. I'm sure that would have just the family element of it would have been amazing. Like, and then let's say if it was like a bloodline era Usos, like that would have been fucking nuts.
Yeah, just definitely huge loss for the wrestling community for the Briscoes. But let's get to the 16th point of this list. Let's wrap it all up with Seth Rollins winning the World Heavyweight Championship at Night of Champions back in May. This was, to me, the culmination, I feel, of a year of frustration from not only Seth, and we could see it, but also his fans, and also fans in the arenas, fans that wanted to cheer him as he became this new character. But more than that, was just putting on some of the best work of his career, undoubtedly. From 2021 to 2022, the stuff with Edge, the stuff with Riddle, all of that's like the one-off match with Roman, the matches with so many people like Logan Paul, the match with Cody in 2022. Seth Rollins put in the work, and then we never saw him win a title. And I think the big conversation was that, a big argument was like, there isn't any room. Roman has all the belts. Roman's on SmackDown. He's never going to face Seth. And that, was where it was at that point. And then they introduced the World Heavyweight Championship after WrestleMania. And I think that there was a lot of misguided conversation and deflection there. I think that when it came to that belt, people started calling it the runner-up belt. They started calling it the number 2 belt. And it sort of became like, okay, they're trying to make this belt a big deal. They're trying to make this belt like important. How can they make another belt that, what I'm saying? Like, how can they make it feel like it was an important belt to have? And I think a lot of people felt as though, like, if you give that belt to Seth, it will be an important title that people will really like. So what did you guys think of that argument? And what did you guys think when Seth finally won it?
I was definitely the first person to crack some jokes and be like, this is the I didn't beat Roman participation trophy. But, over time, of course, they were going to make it important. And then I was just like, once the jokes were out of the way, I was just like, okay, this is how you get over this hump. And my first suggestion was to the matches that result in big accolades, like Money in the Bank, Royal Rumble, stuff like that. You make people want to go for Seth Rollins. Like you make that title desirable in that way. You make if the wrestlers want it, that's what makes it important. If they're still hyper focused on Roman and all that, it's gonna fuck things up. But I think they're in the right direction with making Damian Priest the one, the Money in the Bank winner, being on Seth Rollins' ass.
I do also think, like, kind of from like a not like a long-term standpoint, but it was also nice to see something of consequence happen at one of the Saudi shows, because like the shows are cool usually for like nostalgia, or it's a cool matchup, or like it's a cool kind of story like that, but rarely does any titles actually change or like big things happen. So to have like, hey, regardless of what happens at the end of this match, there will be a new champion. That was just a cool moment to have. And also for AJ, it's cool to have him in, that match as well. Shout out to him. So I think it's like you said, the jokes are funny just especially because it's Twitter. Even the belt design has grown on me. At first, I was kind of on it, and now I kind of it's grown a lot on me. I think it's like giving Seth Rollins a championship is really never a net negative. So like
Yeah.
I think we should also just be like appreciative of that too. Like it's just you're never gonna get me to be like, oh, this is a bad thing. And the last thing I will say is that it will make for cool Twitter graphics about 10, 15 years from now when they do like the Shield with the 3 different gold belts and the Shield all with the WWE title. I can't wait for that Twitter like about the 28th of the month when someone's like, "Oh man, look at the Shield from then and now," and that'll
Would you
be the
look at
thing
the
that people
time? My
tweet.
rent is due.
Can't wait for those tweets.
As a Seth Rollins fan, I think the one thing that
Were you a frustrated Seth Rollins fan? Were you a frustrated Seth Rollins fan in 2021, 2022?
I wasn't frustrated. Here's why. So here's why. I wasn't frustrated because I didn't want him to just have the title, which I kind of feel like is happening right now. And I don't mean it in a sense to where it means like nothing. You put any title on Seth, that title means something like whatever is happening means something. With him. I think the thing that I liked leading up to it, and you guys mentioned things that were happening in the Cody match, even like the Roman stuff. There was so much in his character that he was doing that I love. When they say he's the architect, I love how he can get really cerebral and mess with people in those ways. And right now, I'm seeing that happen in the ring, and it's like kind of a little bit outside the ring, but I liked how there was more outside of the ring character work for him when he was leading up to this. But I think the good thing about it is when this run does end, the person he becomes after it, when he realizes, oh, that wasn't enough and I want to go get it again, when he does that second time, I think it's going to be crazy. So I think to me, I'm just enjoying the ride because I think this is just going to be the prelude to something even crazier than this.
I think also Seth is suffering from 2 things. It's like one is a common Seth thing, which is I feel like whenever Seth gets the title, it's always this quick like get it off him. Like, well, this is boring.
Yeah.
Like people jump to that
So quick.
immediately.
Yeah.
he gets 2 weeks. And also, unfortunately, it's not Seth's fault. Many have come victim to it, but you've already seen it on Twitter. People have already said that's Gunther's belt. And once that narrative got started and you're in Gunther's path, it's like you become a footnote. And I think people are already starting to see that, and people are already starting to fantasy book that and wish cast that. And so I think that's also working against Seth, where people think like, okay, it's cool, you've had it for a while, but like let's
now
do
it's time
something
to
else
pass
with
it
it.
over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think he's just kind of suffering from both of those things, which are neither of which are his fault, but that's just kind of the reality we live in.
Since this was like the title reigns weren't going to be like Roman's. So like people thought like this shit was just gonna like hop around to all the people that didn't beat Roman, and I was just like,
Right,
that's not how
yeah.
you do this. This is not how you build the title up.
Yeah, and it hasn't even been that. You know what I mean? It's been Seth,
Mhm.
and I think he's had some pretty good, performances against his, the people he's been going against. He's had great matches with Nakamura. You know what I mean? He's been working very hard against the Judgment Day all summer and all fall. You know what I mean? Like he's put together some great performances. He was in War Games just a couple of weeks ago. I think that in general, to Channing's point as well, it's like Seth is always the guy that people wish to have the title till they get the title, and then they move on to another darling. You know what I mean? It never fails with him. I've seen people say I hate him as a babyface, and I'm like, well, you guys have been cheering him as a babyface for almost a year now. So when they finally make him, yeah, like stop being against. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like you give him a crazy ass theme song, just some of the best theme songs that the company's ever produced have come from him. Let's just be clear. And you let him have like crazy ass matches where he's able to do babyface shit all the time. He's gonna get over, and he's over again. And then it's like, he's reinvented himself as a heel, and then you guys started cheering him. He gets the belt, then it's like, oh, this motherfucker's boring. It's like you guys do that to everybody. But I feel like Seth just has a certain level of. He's always had a certain level of scrutiny to him because of how much he rides for his company, and I think that's really a lot of what goes into it too. But I gotta mark 2023 as a year where Seth really, really worked hard. I think this is probably it's a career year for him. One of my favorite years of Seth. I mean, from WrestleMania with Logan Paul, seeing that live was crazy. All the way up to the title, all the way up to what he's doing right now. It's all been great stuff. And I think that ultimately this will go down as one of my favorite reigns of his. And as for a first reign, to have for like 6 months, it's kind of crazy. But that's how H books things. He books things. He books long championship reigns. So definitely enjoying that. But that was the number 16 point on the A list this year, 2023. I want to thank you guys, Cyrus, Channing, CC, for joining me on this. This is a bunch of C's on here. I feel like I'm
wow. Oh, man, out. Hey, get the fuck out of here, man.
Yeah, I'm surrounded here. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. And we'll see you guys a little bit later. But up next are the next list entries. I forgot what they were. Is it like, what is it, 15 to 10? I think it's 15 to 10.
Trying to do math. I'm like 15.
Yeah, fuck it. It's late. Roll it. See you guys later. Peace.